My name is Grandmaster Jesse Kraai, and today we are going to talk about what it takes to make 1100 chess.com. This is no mean feat. At 1100, you're going to be at the 85th percentile of all players who've ever played on chess.com. So you are going to be facing players at this level who are working on their game rather intently. Okay, so first thing I want to do is begin with just showing a little rating converter, and you can see here that the lead chess, 1500, 1550 in this range, and then the dojo is 700 to 800. Now, there are 4 skills that I think we need to talk about when we talk about making 1100. First, most important, we need a grip on the board. That means not hanging our stuff and taking the free pieces of our opponents. When I list these skills out, these are the turning points that I have witnessed in thousands of games at this level. So the things I'm telling you, like grip, are the ones where I see this is where the game was decided. So if I say 65% of the skill you need is grip, that means really around 65% of the games that you will be playing will be lost or won by someone hanging or taking a free piece. Next up, time usage. At this level, what we often see is players making impulsive decisions. They're not able to sit on their hands, and this really detracts from their play. You have players who are ardently working on their game, but whose results are really destroyed by time usage. We're going to look at an example of that today. Number 3, development. At this stage of the game, you might say, people know how to develop. Well, one of the big problems that people have is they try to learn openings without first learning how to develop. And then what we're going to see also in the game that I'm going to show is there's a deeper sense of development, which is you got to activate your pieces. So even if the opening feels technically over, we're going to see situations where it's like, what are you doing? They're just sleeping over here. Get them in the game. And finally, we're going to say 5% calculation. Now you might say, calculation? How come we haven't talked about that before, Jesse? Well, the games that we see at this level start to see the ability of some players to think a little deeper, okay? To go deeper into a position. And first thing, before you start being able to calculate, you need that grip on the board. You need to be able to see what controls what. But now we're starting to get players who really can start thinking ahead a little bit, starting to use tactics, right? Now, that 5%, though, I want to stress, it's usually not how the game is decided. Generally, we're going to see someone just hanging a piece, okay? And that's what you should expect. Good. Now, let's move on, and we are going to look as an example of somebody's quest, Amable here. Amable's been in the dojo, been doing some good work, already graduated once, and has gone up 60 points since he's been with us. You can see from his heat map, he's working very diligently. When we look at what he's done and what you would need to done, these are the things that you would need to do in terms of your tasks. Playing games, longer games, and then looking at those games, studying them, is the most important thing that you can do to improve. And you can see that that's not Amable's problem. He's playing and annotating his games great, right? Then we look at tactics. And we can see, the benchmarks of the puzzle rush and survival, he's either got them or surpassed them. So that isn't his problem. Notice he's done the mate in 2s. Something I want to stress is something like the mate in 2s is about calculation. And they are the layups of chess. You need to learn mating patterns. But it's really about grip as well as all of these other tactics that we're doing. So players at this level are often able to do kind of complicated tactical puzzles, but the real benefit of those puzzles is not hanging your stuff. Though the development of this ability to calculate is going to start coming into a player's, the needs of a player as they go up the ladder. Okay, he's also done my course, It's About Time. That was really about development, though I feel like he still hasn't mastered it despite my amazing course. Endgame, I should probably put endgame on the list of skills, but you can see here, he's got the queen mate. He's got the rook mate. He's got this very important pawn ending, and now this double bishop mate. The double bishop mate you should think of, as a lot of these endgames, is not something necessarily you're just going to get, but more with the sense that, oh, I need to learn how to control the squares, right? So a lot of these endgame algorithms are not just for a practical skill, but again, there's something to practice square control. Okay, an opening, we still don't want him really to do any openings, all right? So why? Let me stress this, because we want him to learn to develop. At this level, they usually rebel against my advice, and they start doing all kinds of courses and stuff. And as we'll see in the sample game, it's a little bit of a problem, because then you lose the ability to develop, or it can impinge the skill development. All right, first thing I want to do is we're going to look at his game, but first the time graph. Okay, and what I want us to see is that Amable's biggest problem is he's not using his time well. We created this amazing graph and the time management rating really for this kind of player, because we saw it happening again and again, that players were unable to think for an extended period of time and then made impulsive decisions. You can see, especially up to move like 12 or something, he's got a 30-second increment, so he's not thinking at all. This game that we're going to look at is from a dojo round robin. Really great way for people to improve their game, get good at everything about the game, but in particular, to get good at these longer time controls with somebody at your own level, like this guy 7th Stitch, who's going to look at his opponent, who's also in the dojo. Quick time out here. Did you know that the dojo is an incredible site with tactics, a database, a community of people trying to improve, a training program? All of this is going on at our site. So go check it out. ChessDojo.club. Hit the link in the description. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to go to the game review, and we're going to start from the top. Okay. Now, one hilarious thing that happens at these round robin events is they often stalk each other. And so he had stalked his opponent and anticipated d5. Now, let's just say something obvious. The move e3 is a little controversial because you blocked in your bishop. Okay, f5 is also mildly controversial. I'm okay with this move. And then I really don't like this move. So this is one of the skills that we need to understand. When you don't, so let's back up a second. He feels like, oh, I didn't get him in my opening prep, and now I don't know what to do. So when we think about development, we should just say, all right, well, what would the moves be? And the first one that comes to mind is just play knight f3. It's not that hard. You could also consider c4 and then knight c3. Knight c3 directly is kind of weird, but makes sense to me. But the obvious one is knight f3 and then probably castle's next move. Now, you don't need to know any theory to be able to do that. You just look at the board, you're like, oh, I've learned how to do this, knight f3, here we go. So the problem f4 is now his bishop is really stunted, and it's not clear why we really needed the f4 move in the first place. So it's a loss of tempo in addition to damaging our bishop. Okay, b6, very nice move. Black has to make 2 pawn moves to get the bishops out, right? Boom, boom. Oh, look, very nice control. d6, I'm sure black could do other things. And I want to compliment Amable on this move. I'm sure there's other moves, but what I like about this move is he says to himself, oh, my bishop is terrible and I'm going to invest some time in fixing it. So that is a very important sense to have. To be like, oh, I got to fix this guy. Now, Maybe black should stop it, honestly, with knight e4 and bishop e7, just to not even allow it to land there. Black plays here. And then now h6. And what I think this shows, and black thought for 3 minutes here. By the way, what is the main reason black wins this game? Because he was thinking. So we can debate this move. G6 also makes sense. But what it is black is aware that on bishop e7, this is a problem. Now, it's not the end of the world. Black can play knight f8, but he didn't want it. And he's nervous about this. And so even though I don't really like to play h6, it shows a prudence that white is exercising. Okay, here we go. Knight d2, and now a nice move, knight e4. So something to see here is even though this knight e4 is moving a developed piece twice, what's happening is that when he takes and we recapture, we are developing the queen. So we're not actually losing any time. Okay, so now let me reiterate the 4 skills you need. Grip, not hanging stuff. Time usage, development. Time usage, we already saw. Amiable, that's his biggest flaw right now. That's the thing he needs to fix to make 1100. Development, it's not great, right? We have moves like f4. And then also calculation. We're gonna see every aspect of that here. Now, full blunder, knight e4, allowing fe4. Boom, what are we doing? Now, knight e4, look at that, very committal decision. 8 seconds were spent on that move. 8 seconds. What are we doing? What are we doing here? So, when you don't use your time, these other problems, such as the grip, are the grip on the board, like here, where we're just losing a piece, that's where it's going to show up. Now, to his credit, he's in a bad situation now. He finds at least a move that gives black some grief, knight e5. And there's all kinds of fears of queen h5 now.
Did you know that the dojo is so much more than a podcast? We've got tactics, a database, a training plan for everybody, a community of people trying to get better. So come check us out, ChessDojo.club. Hit the link in the description.
Okay, so I think this is a good example of what we're talking about when we talk about calculation. So in this position, black thought for 4 minutes, and he's terrified of queen h5. I get it, right? And the thing that Amiable quite rightly notes is, oh, it would be really cool if we took this one, which might not have even crossed black's mind, because then when there's a check, we play king d7, and no matter what, we're gonna win a piece, right? So is it super deep? No, but it's a good example of what we mean by calculation at this level, right? Okay, castles. And then I guess we can also call this calculation because we're missing this knight g6. Okay, so queen f6, knight f8, and now white has, of course, turned the tide. But here, maybe also we could talk a little bit about calculation, where black plays rook f8 and then is just down a exchange. I think interesting would be takes, knight d7, queen g6. And the point is, there's a mate threat, that on something like queen d2, we can try to do this and say, well, wait a second, if I can keep the pawn on c2, such as rook c1, bishop e4, then maybe I can grab the knight. And if I grab the knight while keeping that pawn on c2, I'm not dead. Okay, so that was an interesting thought that black moved a little too fast on, maybe just assumed. Now, here's an important thing for us to think about. What I want you to see in the next several moves is that Amiable doesn't feel the need to develop his rooks. They need to be active, clearly, right? But also when you think about it, like, well, a rook is better than a minor when we start getting those open files, right? So that's what we need to be looking for. I don't mind bishop c4. Knight b8's a little weird to me. Now what do I want? I want him to play c4. I want him to play rook c1. Open up the position, develop the rooks. He starts going weird on me. This is what we call playing with our pretty piece, right? I don't know. I'm not even sure f5's a threat. g6, okay, it's gonna stop it. Bishop h3, again, playing with our pretty piece. Rook f7, a little weird. c3, what are we doing? We gotta play rook c1 and c4 in some order. And now f5. Again, a very committal move, played pretty fast. And the weird thing is, Amable doesn't really explain to us what he was thinking about. He explains why he didn't like queen g4. And let me stress something about this crazy variation. Probably black just plays knight f8 here, but the point is he's obsessed with the bishop touching e6, and he's not thinking about his rooks, right? The rooks, they need to be developed. Okay, now, fine, queen g4 would of course been better than f5, but what are we doing? What are we doing with this move? And it's so fast, played so fast. Now, I don't know. I mean, black was definitely lost before, and now I don't know what to say. Now it's kind of complicated. Rook f4 played kind of quickly. I'm not sure what that does. Black thinks knight f8, good move. Good move. Now, there's no reason to think black's not fine. Great. Boom. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Now, what should white be doing? He still needs to be thinking of c4. Open up the file for the rooks. The rooks aren't doing anything on the f file. What does he do? Rook f4, played very quickly. We're not developing. We're not activating our pieces. And then queen g2, trying to do something funky, played in 6 seconds. Rook g7, and now the rook just needs to go back. He gets fancy, and then, oh, very nice move. Oh, and now he says rook g4 double question mark, but I think it's already gone. All right, and so it's crispy critters here. And what we'll say here, very nice move to end it from black. One of the things that we do at the dojo is we're doing these mate in twos. This, I think, is a good example of somebody who studied them. A mate in two is usually not done with a check, and we're just setting up this beautiful mating pattern. Bang. Okay, now I want to stress somebody like 7th Stitch, if you're going to play him, the 7th Stitch is working on his game. So you're not going to be playing chumps anymore. You might have players with some problems, like Amable has a grief with not using his time, but Amable is definitely working on his game, can fix this problem and hopefully go up. So 4 things: grip, time usage, development, and this is where at 1100 this word calculation starts creeping in, right? All right, till next time.